Hello and welcome to the latest of my deep dive videos. This one, Mars's journey through the sign of Capricorn, which begins on the 24th of January 2022. It concludes on the 6th of March when Mars makes its way into the sign of Aquarius. So it's a 6-week journey. Now what I'm going to do is give you 7 key facts to look out for as this kicks off, but also then going to share the event chart. So what does the natal astrology tell us about what we can expect over this 6-week period beyond Mars just being in Capricorn? What are the other interrelationships? And then I'm going to share with you the angles or aspects that Mars forges with other planets and the key dates. So that's really going to be helpful information, I hope. And then please stay with me. I'll go through each of the 12 zodiac signs from Aries through to Pisces and share with you what you can expect from that sign. Whether you want to watch it in terms of your sun or your ascendant is entirely up to you. Now, if you're new to my channel, I'd be honoured if you would subscribe. Please click or tap on the bell notification symbol. This means every time I drop a video, you'll get an alert. I'd also like to say that I try to interact with everybody who leaves a comment, so please feel welcome to do so. And if you would like to get your free daily written horoscope fired to your device each morning, please see below where you can subscribe for that. I've been writing these for over 25 years. And finally, if you want to take advantage of my special package of buying a 12-month forecast and my character analysis, you can do so and get 30% off. But this is not based on zodiac astrology. This is based on your natal information of time, date and place, and no two charts are the same. So if you'd like to know more about that, please also see the link below. So I'm going to share a few key facts about Mars's transit through Capricorn. The first off is that it will go on for 6 weeks, but Mars usually takes 6 weeks to go through each zodiac sign. But if you remember in 2020 there was a retrograde involving Aries, and we got another one later this year in the sign of Gemini, which begins on August the 20th. Now it's not going to come out of the sign of Gemini until March 23, so an extraordinarily long journey through the sign of Gemini. So Mars isn't always 6 weeks. Now Mars, of course, is very much about action, but it doesn't just rule the sign of Aries, which you probably know it is involved with. It's also the co-ruler or the traditional ruler of the sign of Scorpio, which is very businesslike and very instinctive. So Mars moving into the sign of Capricorn, which is very much about substance, structures, buildings, getting our clear ideas of what we want to achieve in terms of our goals and ambitions. Mars gives more propulsion to the more conservative energies of the sign of Capricorn, governed by Saturn. So it's a really good mix. This exaltation is a great chance for Mars to shine. Now also, the sign of Capricorn is Earth ruled in terms of the element. So Mars doesn't want to just put a load of energy in, it wants to see some substance, some reward for that effort. So the harder we work and in a very prioritized and focused way, the more we can see results. It's also a cardinal sign, the sign of Capricorn, very much to do with leadership. And just as the movement of Mars into Capricorn begins, so it's on the Earth point. So this is a very key degree in astrology, 0 degrees Capricorn, and that in itself can give us extra desire to push forwards. And the rulership of Saturn is something that I think can be a little bit talked down, but Saturn does have its upside. It is about continuity. It can be about really dedicating ourselves in a very applied way. So if we work really hard, there is an opportunity through to the 6th of March to see some key results developing. Now I'm going to share with you on the screen now the birth chart or the event chart for the moment that Mars moved into Capricorn. And the most fascinating part of this is the ascendant you can see is at 20 degrees in Gemini, but right at the top of the chart is Saturn, the ruler of Capricorn, and it's right on the 10th house cusp at 14 degrees. So I think over the next 6 weeks, whereas Mars is in the sector of relating and competition, and that's really given us an idea that we may have to be conscious of how we interact with people. Mars can be forceful, of course, but also it can give us the impulse to engage. So that 7th house isn't just about relating, it can be about how we interact. So Mars gives us a lot of drive to interact. Saturn at the top of the chart there is saying, you know, there could be some things that we need to be mindful of in terms of our worldly interactions, which may not always, or all the time anyway, flow in quite as fluid a way as we'd like, because Saturn is in that square with Uranus, and Uranus is in the 12th house, quite psychological. So our worldly responsibilities could weigh us down a little bit if we're worrying about how we're going to make our way through, you know, what is a cost of living crisis. We've got inflation really bubbling up, and you know, nothing's getting cheaper, and obviously there is also a threat to fuel and the supply of energy, so that is another area that is of concern. But Mars is saying, what can we do for ourselves? Because Mars is very much about us as individuals, but in the sign of Capricorn it is about understanding how things have been and making the most of those more traditional themes, but applying to it some of the individual talents and flair that we have. So a great opportunity. And Mars is also forging, you can see a brilliant link there with Jupiter, and Jupiter also in the 10th house suggests there are opportunities if we can flex. Now Mars is also in a semi-sextile with Mercury. That's a 30-degree angle. Mercury's about how we think. It's exalted in the sign of Aquarius, and you can see that Saturn, the Sun, Mercury, Pluto and Juno are all in the 9th house. Might be this about international affairs? Yes, I agree with you. Will Mars be used in the 7th house in a warlike and hostile way? Unfortunately, I think that is entirely possible. People who have Mars in the 7th house in their natal chart are pretty firm in terms of asserting their boundaries, usually. It can make people, you know, great sports people who, you know, really enjoy the cut and thrust of competition, or it can make people very good at sales and stuff like that. You can also see, however, that Venus is in Capricorn too, and that's in a glorious link with Uranus. It's possible, therefore, that if we use our flexibility around money, which very much akin to the sign of Capricorn and Venus, of course, about money, we have Pluto there as well, forging a fantastic link with the North Node in the sign of Taurus. So I think all of this is saying to us that we need to be realistic about where things are in terms of those rising costs, but if we can roll our sleeves up, apply ourselves in as an efficient and productive way as possible, very Capricornian energies, but use those individual talents, then we have a great chance to thrive. Now, of course, there are going to be some aspects forged with other planets. And there's going to be a trine with Jupiter that's exact on the 4th of February. Now that can give us a lot of enthusiasm and get-go. But from the 6th of February right through till the 6th of March, Venus and Mars are pretty well side by side. And that's going to encapsulate the Valentine's Day celebrations of the 14th of February. Interesting, could be very very spicy for some people. Mars in Capricorn has got a good appetite for being amorous. It is to do with consumption after all. So that's going to be interesting for some people. But we also have a trine with Uranus on the 8th of February, so that's living in the moment. A sextile with Neptune on the 23rd of February, so that's combating our ego with good deeds and compassion. And then it is conjunct Pluto on the 3rd of March, and that's the one that concerns me a little bit when it comes to, you know, the potential conflict that we have brewing in Ukraine, and of course it could happen before then. In terms of the broader aspects, so not the precise ones, the first 10 days of February, Mars is trine in Uranus. The first 10 days it's sextile in Jupiter, so those are very exercised and energized and motivating influences. And you know, if we use them in a way which is not just good for us but for others, because of course Mars can be very much about what we want as individuals, so if we bear in mind the need of others, we can balance that desire of Mars in a more productive and positive way. But we do then have the movement of Mars and Venus into the sign of Aquarius on the 6th, and that's going to go on. They're going to be at a conjunction through to the 19th of March. So here's another very unusual planetary alliance in terms of the length. So essentially from the 6th of February through to the 19th of March, Mars is going to be accompanied by Venus. Now Venus of course is a more moderating energy. It's more about the diplomatic side of relating around relationships, whereas Mars is about that need, that, you know, desire, especially for instant gratification. So Mars can just take the edge off that somewhat. So a really exciting set of possibilities. I think there is the material side of it that Mars can promote, and there is the relating side of it, and there could be also the consumption side of it. You know, if you are in a position to enjoy the good things in life, then certainly Mars sees us wanting what the best we can afford. But we live in a society where there's lots of different layers, and not everybody is so well off. So for some people, you know, are having to make some really critical decisions about whether to have food or heating, and that is a really perilous place to be. So, you know, we must see that although Mars has all these strengths, it's not necessarily easy for everyone to access these more get-go materialistic and entrepreneurial instincts, because not everyone's made that way. But let's hope that we do see a pushback in COVID, more people can get back into their normal patterns, and then we can all start to enjoy the good things in life, get the economies turning over in a way that's productive. We do see an easing of tensions in Eastern Europe, which would be fantastic. And now please stay with me. I'm going to go through each of the 12 zodiac signs to tell you what this event means for you. Well, for you Aries, it's very much about going for it, having the confidence to really pursue the aims that you feel that you're capable of. If there's any little voice at the back of your head saying I can't do this, Mars in the 10th house is going to suddenly give you a real uplift in personal confidence. And if you've ever wanted to be a manager or an administrator or a supervisor, your chance can come over this 6-week period. If you're already involved in a role like that, expect more responsibility to be heading your way. Now for Taurus, Mars moving into the 9th house is very much to do with expanding your horizons, but that's been a message for you for really quite a long time. And if some of that progress is stalled, perhaps because of the reality of COVID and some of the restrictions we've all had to live with, I think there is going to be a much greater chance for you to spread your wings. I really hope so. I think you'll enjoy having a change of scene, and even if it's a change of routine, because remember, you're adhered to routines more than many people. And if your routines have become a little bit too samey, Mars is giving you the encouragement to be much more spontaneous. Also, Mars isn't just about physical action. So for some people, it can be, throwing themselves out the back of an aircraft to raise money for charity. Other people, it could be going on a 20-mile route march across rugged countryside. But for others, it can be accessing our, intellect. So the ninth house very much about that. But Mars gives us a lot of impulse, a lot of impetus. So I think your desire to have a change, shake things up, is going to be really strong. Now for you, Gemini, this could get seriously spicy over this next period of time, because not only do you have Mars moving through your 8th house, which is very sensual, you also have Venus in the mix, and Jupiter's also in your sector of success, linking very well to both Mars and Venus, especially at the start of February. So if you're wanting to improve your financial lot, there's every chance you can. If there is a mystery person that you're really drawn towards, really tuning in right down to the bottom of your very being can help to reveal some secrets that may actually be part of your own relationship to your attitude to relationships. And even if a relationship doesn't develop straight away, a transition can go on over this next 6-week period, and even greater awareness develop with Mars and Venus moving into Aquarius, because you're giving yourself permission to grow and not just consume every suggestion or every possibility through the prism of your intellect. So what Mars is asking you to do is get in touch with your desire. And if you're a very principled person, but you need to pay the bills, if you need to earn some more money, don't beat yourself up about that. Money is just a form, an exchange of energy. And if you do have fears about being more close, intimate, in a physical or emotional context, Mars is saying, look, give it a try and see where it leads, because you could learn a great deal about yourself and your true potential. Don't deny your possibility to be close to people simply because you're quick-witted, you're so, you can maneuver yourself around, pivot to get on with so many different types of people. But that quick third house energy can see you sometimes miss out on just slowing things down and receiving something deeper, more passionate, more desirable. It's up to you. Which brings us to Cancer. Mars in the 7th house has some challenges. As I mentioned before, people with this in their natal horoscopes or Mars on the 1st house, can be, very much in need of controlling the relationship. So important to avoid that trap. But Mars equally could give you just a little bit more confidence to interact with others, especially if you are a more self-deprecating and shyer type of Cancer. And Venus is there to provide support, as is the wonderful Jupiter, as is the devil-may-care Uranus. So there's a wonderful set of planetary energies developing for you over this next 6 weeks. Don't sit on your hands. Now that brings us to Leo. Now Mars in the 6th house for you can be great for getting fitter. So if those New Year's resolutions have lost a little bit of energy, you need to recommit yourself to narrowing your focus. The 6th house is about trying to avoid all the white noise that distracts all of us these days, getting down to brass tacks and really thinking, what do I really want to put my physical drive and enthusiasm into? And you can have more vitality with Mars moving through Capricorn. So exciting for you. For Virgo, well, Mars moving into your 5th house is as good as it gets, really, because the 5th house is about where you can demonstrate your talents, you can be flirty, you can feel much more alluring and attractive, particularly with Venus in the mix. Jupiter's in your 7th house of relating, and Uranus in your 9th house of opening up new horizons and being open to fresh experiences. So much to go for. This could see a revival in an existing relationship, or someone enormously alluring about to soar into the center of your universe and really make your pulse race. Could be absolutely fantastic. Now, Libra, somebody wrote and said, oh, Patrick, are you mentioning that fourth house again? It's so boring. I'm sick of the fourth house. I'm sorry. The planets are where they are. The only way to get around that particular issue is to look at your nativity, see where your ascendant is, see where each house is, and see where Mars is traveling through that house. And that's what serious astrology does. In terms of sun sign astrology, or if you know your ascendant, Mars enters the fourth house. Now, Mars in the fourth house can be prickly and defensive, a bit like as if it was in Cancer. But it can also see you perhaps state your case a bit more forcefully. You still have the grace of your ruler Venus allied to Mars right through to the 16th of March. So lots of good things are possible. I think of the sort of iron fist in the velvet glove. That's how I think of you over this next period of time. And of course, in my ascendant, 23 degrees 51 minutes, I can use the same approach too. Now, wear those silk gloves. Which brings us to Scorpio. Now, obviously, Mars is your ruling planet and Pluto is your higher octave planet. So when they come together on March the 3rd, exactly, it can be a very important moment for you if there is something that you want to express with conviction and drive and assertiveness. But the problem is, of course, that Mars and Pluto together can be quite ruthless, if we're honest, if they're not used in the right way. If you want to use that combination to get much more get fitter in a high explosive kind of way, you know, where you do short shuttle bursts of very stressful exercise, that could be a great way to use the energies, the joint energies of Mars and Pluto in a very productive way. But before then, I think you may find yourself wanting to speak out more. But the third house energy linked to Venus, is there someone in your everyday world that's been just creeping up on your consciousness, perhaps through street gatherings or just saying hello with COVID and getting to know people more around you, or someone delivering something, or someone you say hi to in the street, or could an introduction occur through a sibling or a community event as they start to open up again? Because that can be where you can shine, and whether it's romantically, in terms of your intellect, in terms of a business, in terms of technology, or in terms of just expressing what makes you so wonderfully you, a great opportunity for you to sparkle. Brings us to Sagittarius. Now, Mars, of course, has been going through your sign for the last 6 weeks. What have you been doing during that time? If you got caught up with the collision or the square with Neptune, which has been very demotivated, you may still be struggling to really get going. But you know, Mars moving into your second solar house can really give you a very big desire to improve your financial lot, and you won't take no for an answer. You're going to really push forwards with conviction and real earnest and urgency. I think that's a real possibility. But with Venus in the mix as well, if you're someone who really loves your food, you're going to love it big time over the next 6 weeks, that's for sure. So Capricorn, it can really be a wonderful opportunity for you to get back on the front foot. Now, that's not to say that you haven't been making progress, because I think you have, except maybe around the finances with the Mercury retrograde obviously being a bit of an issue in your sector of everyday resources. But it's more that Mars has been buried away in this deep and very sensitive 12th house. Mars moving into your sign brings you into the present. Suddenly things that maybe were bugging you a little bit, distracting you from the main things that you want to focus on, they just seem to melt away. You'll really find that everything's coming together in a much more coherent way, and you're really set to go on quite a journey of discovering perhaps just how attractive, popular, alluring that you are. And of course, your sign is very much to do with patience and persistence. Mars is about getting on with it quickly, but Mars in this part of your situation just gives you added impetus, much more self-confidence, and I feel rather than analysing some of the things that have been absorbing you, on a kind of joint basis, you've had one foot in the past, one in the present and beyond, with obviously the planets, including your ruler, in the sign next to yours. But I think this brings you much more into the here and now, and gives you an opportunity to really get all your energies together in quite a focused way and start to move forwards. But if you have thought about giving yourself a nice, rather glamorous new look, perhaps one that's a bit edgy, a bit different for you, this would be a fine time to do so. And this could be the beginning of something that's going to come to fruition in some months' time, or maybe you're going to start to see the rewards for a lot of hard work that's gone in recently, and that really will become much more clear to you in the middle of February, especially from a financial viewpoint. Which brings us to Aquarius. Now, Mars in the 12th house can be tricky, quite honestly, because what Mars can do is arouse sensitive energies that are buried deep within us. The 12th house is the pit of burying, and of course Pluto and Mars, when they come together on the 3rd of March, could see something absolutely explode to the surface. Now, of course, the other option is just to accept that Mars and Pluto are in your 12th house, along with Venus, as this process begins, and also along with Juno, and just say, okay, that's the way it is. I've got to really be much more conscious of the more psychological side of life. But don't be surprised if someone from your past that you were deeply attracted to, what you found captivating, mysterious, elusive, perhaps even a bit secretive, maybe a secretive alliance, not really known for that, Aquarius people, but perhaps a secretive alliance, a sexual attraction can develop for you over the next few weeks. And if it is someone you want to be around much longer, you'll make the announcement to the wider world on the 6th of March. So, but by that time, I think you and I will have worked through lots of psychological issues, more in the process, but by the 6th of March, be ready to really absolutely power forwards in an incredibly dynamic way. It's really going to be great, to be honest. It's going to be great. It's going to be great for everyone. Trust me, it's going to be great. Sorry about that. And that brings us to Pisces. So for you, Mars moves into your 11th house, which is interesting because Mars is about I, the 11th house is about us. So if you work within groups but retain your individuality but look to collaborate and cooperate, you can have a great time over the next 6 weeks, particularly with Jupiter, your ruler, back in your sign, and Uranus sparkling along with Jupiter back towards Venus and Mars as we go into February. So much to excite you, Pisces, and I think it can lead to a revival around certain friendships. It may even see some new ones, some new social interaction, but don't be surprised with Saturn still in your 12th house if there are still some very tender strands or issues to do with your past that are still informing some of your attitudes in the here and now. That's just the way it is with Saturn through the 12th house. Thank you so much for joining me. It's been a real pleasure being with you. Please stay safe, good luck, and goodbye for now.